YouTube fellow community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the Beach Boys 2002-2003 release, Good Timin', live at Knebworth, 1980, June 21st, 1980, a live album they did, they put out, of a concert they did in Knebworth, England, and guess what, you named it, 1980. So, this really is a fantastic concert. It's historical for the sense that it features all the Beach Boys. Mike, Bruce, Al, Carl, Brian, Dennis. They're all there. All of them are there. And for a band that was certainly splintering apart really hard at this point between coming on stage in separate, sides of the stage, and all kinds of fractions happening behind the scenes with trying to progress forward as a band, trying to stay commercially viable, writing new music, trying to have record labels believe in you, drugs, alcohol. The thing was falling apart, and I've talked about this before with the Keeping the Summer Alive review and the LA album, the Light album. So this era for them was just not a positive, happy time, and to hear them create this music live, you would never guess that because they are really tight, they are solid, they are a well-oiled machine. Granted, they've been doing this for 20 years at this point, but for a band that didn't want to be with each other, to hear them work like this is fantastic. You do hear bits and pieces of that separatism there, like, Mike and Al kind of goof with each other. Carl introduces Denny and Brian, so there's moments of, the sides, but they come together and they sound great. We hear the harmonies on Lady Linda, it's like, these guys were fighting? They sound fantastic. By this point, everyone knows the story that, after Endless Summer came out, they basically went back to playing the oldies again. Didn't do much of the late 60s, early 70s gear at all. So you're back to the, the Help Me Rondas, the Little Deuce Coupes, the Barbara Anns, that kind of stuff, with moments of newness sprinkled in for the new album they just put out that time. So you get Schooldays, you get Keeping the Summer Alive, Lady Linda, which is pretty cool. But there's also an accompanying DVD as well with this record. But it's a great live album. It's not my favorite by them, but it's really enjoyable to listen to. It's a lot of fun, and they sound like they're having a good time. So what more can you ask for, man? California Girls is a fantastic intro on this thing, and you get that real slow burn intro that they classically did, and they still do to a certain degree. But Denny just doing that wailing thing on the drums, he's such a good drummer. He's got his own style. This barbarian just beat the crap out of the cymbals and the drums mentality to his playing, and as a drummer myself, I love that. I love hearing what he can do with that, with what is putting his own emotion and his own spin into his playing is what makes a drummer a good drummer, but is a very unique drummer. I should mention this came out earlier. It came out in the UK first, where it did go gold, and then it came out in the US about a year later in 2003, or maybe 6 months later. It didn't chart over here, but did over in England. But yeah, California Girls, you're right into the whole sound of them sounding like they're having a great time. You would never guess this is a band that was splintering. Sloop John B is a fantastic version. Brian sings a little bit on this one, so you get to hear Brian. And then Darlin' is absolutely fantastic. This is one of the best versions of Darlin' that exists because it's basically on fast forward the whole time, but they crank through this thing with expert timing. Carl's vocals are absolutely on point. Very, very exciting vocal track. And the background vocals keep up, and the whole in tune, in step, in time. Nothing is out of place on this track at all. They nailed this thing. Then you get Schooldays, which, as I've talked about before, is a song I'm always kind of hot or cold on. Some days I really like it, some days I'm like, this is the most annoying song I've ever heard. This version's really not bad. Again, I have to be in the mood for it, so it's not bad. But then you get God Only Knows, which is a nice, sweet version of this song as well. Carl doing a great job with the vocal. Be True to Your School, pretty fun little song. Pretty close to the original, but with some more pep to it. Not much to say about that one. Do It Again, this version's really not bad. I feel like this song has been, it's had its moments where sometimes they play it, it sounds absolutely amazing. Sometimes they play it and it sounds like just another song, but it was a big single for them, and it's the only song that came out of the late 60s that's on this thing besides Cotton Fields later on. But Little Deuce Coupe, that's a good little version of it. Cotton Fields mixed with Heroes and Villains is pretty cool. Hearing Al kind of switch things up, and Denny talking in between bits and pieces here and there, and kind of cheering on the audience. Then you get a Happy Birthday to Brian, which I think is really special because the audience starts singing Happy Birthday to him because they knew it was his birthday a couple days earlier. And then Mike is like, wait, you guys singing Happy Birthday to Brian? And so they find the key, and then they all sing it to him at the same time. So that's really special to have that on here. That's really cool. I think Keeping the Summer Alive, the first original new song off that album, is fantastic. This version, I think, beats the crap out of the studio. The studio version's great, but this one just has a fire and a rip to it. You could tell Carl was so hungry to make this band go somewhere else. There's a quote from him, I think in '81, where he said, look, I want to be as excited about this thing as we were in 1961. We want to sound as original and hungry as we are in 1981, or something along those lines. But he knew the band was just kind of resting on its laurels, just going out there, playing the hits, and okay, bye. He didn't want that. That's why he went on. He left the band. He did his 2 solo albums. He came back. Like, he needed to do something for himself to prove he was a musician making new music that was with the times, and not just relying on 18-year-old songs. And you can't blame the guy, but Keeping the Summer Alive has an absolute drive and a force behind it that is a great rendition, and he breaks a string during it, so you hear him say he mentions that he broke a string, but absolute standout on this album is that song in particular. Lady Linda follows it also off the same album, and this is another, again, a great track, really well done. And there's been times where I've been iffy on this song as well, but this one in particular, I really like how they did this. And they were really into it too, because they come back and they redo the vocal coda at the end. Again, they just repeat it because they thought it sounded so cool, which is great. Al is in top form singing this one, and that group vocal harmony, it's the Beach Boys, man. They sound great. Surfer Girl, what can you say about Surfer Girl? Brian gets to sing the middle bit there, which is awesome. And he sounds pretty into it. Help Me Rhonda, this is the one I think Denny screams Elton John, Eat Your Heart Out before or something, but which is pretty funny. But great version of Help Me Rhonda. It's always been a big crowd favorite. People love to chant along with that one, so that's cool. Rock and Roll Music is like the only '70s song on here. And again, that's a song I'm always back and forth on as well. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I can't stand it. This one's pretty cool. I Get Around and Surfing USA, 2 of their earliest humongous hits. They're awesome. They're so well played. They sound super fun. And again, you would never guess this was a band that was on the verge of splitting up or one of their lead members quitting. Again, they'd played this song a billion times, but it still sounds vibrant and fresh, and can't knock the guys for trying for that one. I mean, it sounds awesome. Then you get Denny doing You Are So Beautiful, which is a song he basically co-wrote. And to this day, he probably will never get a co-writing credit for it, but absolutely amazing to hear him sing this. He sang this all the time during those days. And this is like right before his voice really started to get shot. He sounds pretty rough here, but not too bad. But it's that soul, it's that emotion, it's that pain, it's that yearning. He puts his whole heart into that song, and we are the better for being able to listen to it. Good Vibrations is awesome, except it goes on forever. I love this song to pieces, but this live version is just like, okay, you in the back with a blue shirt, you sing it. Okay, now you 3 people that took the bus to go to Walmart this morning to pick up peanut butter, you sing it. Okay, now it's just the girls, just the guys. People who have worn blue underwear today, you sing it. Like, oh my god, like, we get it. It goes on forever. Maybe if you were there, it would have been fun, but listening back to it, it's like, oh my god. And that's just me. That's just me. And then that double hitter of Barbara Ann and Fun, Fun, Fun. Can't end with a better song than Fun, Fun, Fun. That thing is great. Can't go wrong with that one. No, well, there's that. Here's the CD for you. So you got that classic logo and the booklet, which decided to promptly throw itself from the jacket there, which is great because you get a nice little detailed setup of what was going on. Some of their chart build-ups in England. Having Brian with the guys. Mentioning that it's basically like the only show that has all the members there, but it goes into pretty good detail about what was happening. And some pretty good detail too. Like, the years 1976 to 1980 were the Beach Boys' most prolific in musical terms since their heyday in the 60s. They talk about 15 Big Ones, MIU, the Love You album, and then Beach Boys on the Beach Boys songs, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of like, here are the songs. It says, here are the songs performed at Knebworth that night, with contemporary comments by the band members themselves. So it's kind of like them looking back on it. Yeah, very cool. So the booklet alone, I think, is fantastic. Here we go. Yeah, Good Vibrations, the band's most famous song, and voted the #1 single of all time in Mojo magazine in 1997. One cannot imagine a Beach Boys concert without it. Brian says, I love it because we made it at a time when we needed something like that. A good record that would give us strength in the record industry. We came up with it after 6 studios and 6 months of studio experimentation. We thought of it as a masterpiece in the making, and eventually it became a masterpiece completed. That's very well said. But you got some good pictures. Here's a shot of the guys at the time. Looking a little hard there, though. Anyways, it's not my favorite Beach Boys live album, but it's decent. I would not call it essential unless you're collecting the Beach Boys music. I think, for me personally, I'd go with like the 1964 album, the 73 album, and even the 2012 50th anniversary album. But for historical purposes, this is awesome, and definitely deserves a listen. It's got a lot going for it. It's really not a bad concert at all. It's a lot of fun to put on and kind of just, get in the zone with. Standouts for me are Keeping the Summer Alive. California Girls is really good. Lady Linda is great. Yeah, You Are So Beautiful. I'd put that on there. Fun, Fun, Fun. Can't go wrong with that one. And Darling. Absolute brilliant version of Darling. So, here's the back cover. Hard to see in the video, but it's just the songs on a purple background. So, that's it. I'd give this thing probably an 8 or 9 out of 10. Maybe let's go with an 8. Only because I wish they would change up the set list, but you can't go back in time and change that. So, that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been the Beach Boys, Good Timin', live in Knebworth, 1980. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Tell me what you think of this thing. Alright, bye.